Hello everyone, Bertina Amy here, and welcome to my channel. In today's video, I thought I would do 3 Dollar Tree DIY Spring Bee Wreaths. The first is an updated Dollar Tree DIY beehive wreath. So I'm really excited that I was able to pick up this beehive wreath form, and I also grabbed some burlap ribbon. So I'm going to go ahead and take one of these and take it completely off the spool. Okay, here is my ribbon completely off the spool and folded in half both ways. I'm only going to focus on one of these wreath forms, but we are going to use both of them. And I'm not sure how many of these rolls I'm going to need, but I will let you know when this, sorry about that, when this project is completed. So I'm going to start with wrapping first here. So I'm going to go over like this, although maybe I should try under. I think that might throw me off, but I can go under. I'm going to cover up. Maybe that'll look better. Okay. I'm going to go under and around like this, and then right over to left. All right, and then pull the strings or the strands through. Okay, and then over, and then we're going to repeat until this whole section is done. Then I'm going to do this section and this section off camera as well. All right, I'm going to go ahead and hot glue the ends and then trim off the excess. All right, so then I have this much left, and I'm going to go ahead and attach this. So we're going to wrap it once that way and once that way. Okay, so here are the 3 panels all wrapped, and I just want to bring this other one here in. Over left. Oh, oops. I don't want the bars to be seen, so I made that mistake there. Go around that way. And then this can go around that way. Okay, and then use the clip to make sure, hopefully, that it stays in place. Okay, so here is the whole wreath completely wrapped, and I'm going to show you the back here. I wasn't too worried about wrapping this part because it's not being seen on the other side. I did wrap any of these bottom and top ones, at least that's what I'm calling it based on the way it is facing me. However, when I turn this way, I will show you, I purposely didn't go ahead and wrap around this because I wanted this to be where it got hung, so I don't have to create a new hanger. And then I took advantage of how hot glue works, removed how these were on there, and then made sure it went around both the bars. And that way that helps secure it even more, I think. So here I'm taking my bee string lights that I already put batteries in and making sure to test out the lights to make sure that they work because my previous purchase did not. Then I go ahead and unravel the string lights and do my best to go ahead and string them through along the outside edges of this beehive. So now we just need to secure the battery pack to the back, and I'm just determining where I want mine. Once I make that decision, I go ahead and grab some scrap burlap and then cut them into small pieces because, let's face it, hot glue and this battery pack are just not going to stick because they're both kind of plasticky, so you need something kind of like with more fibers in order for it to stick. So I'm using scrap burlap to help keep it in place of tape. Tape is not good enough for this. As I'm doing all this, I'm also making sure that I'm not covering any part of the opening, so that way if I need to replace the battery, I can still do so. So keep that in mind as you're trying to attach the wire to the pack. And before I forget, this ended up taking 3 rolls of this regular natural burlap ribbon. Once that's done, I go ahead and add hot glue to the parts where I added the burlap and place it where I want it on the back of my beehive wreath. And lastly, I go ahead and embellish the rest of this using 3 sunflowers from Dollar Tree from one pick. And then I also saw that they had these cute little pot decor pieces, and they have them as frogs and ladybugs and bees. And I selected the bee because I thought it'd be perfect. And the part of the top of the ladder is very flexible, so you could actually pinch it around the opening of the beehive. So I go ahead and use that and pitch it onto the beehive, and I think it looks absolutely adorable. So I decided to swap out the smaller sunflowers for these ginormous ones because I felt like it would be more, at least closer to realistic proportions as in real life, because bees are not bigger than their flowers or just as big. So I thought these larger flowers would be better. Plus, I think it looks better in embellishing this project overall. And I just simply hot glue them into the same places or close to the same places as the original flowers were. And in case Family Dollar repeats this cute little bee that I got last year, then you can actually use this instead if you think that you'd like this style better than the current Dollar Tree's bee. And here are the final results with the lights off and on. Next is an updated Dollar Tree DIY bee wreath. So a few years back, I picked up one of these bee wreaths from Dollar Tree, which I'm sad to say I've not seen any of them in stores this year. But I also had one of these yellow deco mesh with like the white specks. It made me think of pollen, so I thought this was perfect. I also picked up one of their black fuzzy yarns, but I don't recommend this. In fact, I actually redo the body. So really, I'm redoing this audio recording just to cover how I did the wings and the head. And of course the antenna, but I would not recommend the yarn. Instead, I would go with just some black pipe cleaners instead. So as you can see here, real sped up, I went ahead and just hot glued it to itself and then just wrapped it around the entire body of it, the inner bars, so that I had access to the outer bars for the inside part of the wings. I hope that makes sense. I did, of course, have to hot glue it along the bottom parts of the body just because otherwise it was sliding off, which is something I had to deal with again when I changed up the body. And here, sped up really quick, I went ahead and wrapped it with the black yarn, and I did make a little knot at one edge, hot glued it, and then wrapped it around, and then hot glued it as needed so that it would stay in place. But you don't need to worry about this because if you want to follow the final result of what I did to update it, then I would wait till the end. So I'm not sure what kind of knot this is called, but I did knot the yarn onto the antenna. I don't change this part, but feel free to check out the original video for detailed instructions on how I did this part. So from Creatology, I picked up a pack of these white sparkling type pipe cleaners, and I thought these would be perfect for the outer edge of the wings as a nice outline instead of the red. So I just take it and I just wrap it around the bars for the wings. So for the wings, I go ahead and take some white sparkling tulle and I cut about a certain length, hard to explain. It was kind of eyeballing it really. I just go ahead and fold it in half, make sure it's long enough to go past the upper part of the wing and the bottom part of the wing. And I took a pipe cleaner and then just scrunched it down the middle or wrapped it around the middle so that I could fold it and give it a sort of spanned out look, if you will. And I repeat that twice and I make sure to attach it at the corner towards the head or body, and then I could just hot glue or sew the tulle onto the outer edge of the wings, the outline, if you will. So I hope that makes sense. And sewing, of course, is entirely optional. You don't even really need to attach it anyplace else. If you want to use hot glue towards the back, you absolutely can, just to make sure it stays in place. I was just worried that it would show through the tulle, so I avoided the hot glue. It's totally up to you, though. And for the head, this was entirely experimental. I was experimenting as I was doing this originally, and I ended up opting for one of these round floral foams and then just covering it with the remaining yellow deco mesh I had on hand, and then covering it with all the sunflowers I had on hand all along the edges and then in the front, so that it looks like that you can't see the bee's face because instead it's stuffed its head into a sunflower. And last but not least, I go ahead and add a hanger at the top of the head using a spare bit of white pipe cleaner. So to update this bee wreath, I decided to go ahead and remove the pieces for the body because I really wanted to try doing the ribbon wrapping method I've been doing because I did this project before I thought of that idea. And Dollar Tree is no longer selling these, unfortunately, at least not in my local areas. So I decided to repurpose this old one and take out just the body alone so that I could try to ribbon wrap it because I really wanted to see how it looks like. And I feel like when it comes to anything crafty, the best way to find out if something's going to work out or look good is to try to experiment. And side note, I fully regret using Dollar Tree's fuzzy yarn in black because any of their fuzzy yarns really, they just shed like crazy and it's getting all over my surface and my project. So I do my best to try to clear up as much of it as I can, but it seems to keep reappearing as I go along. So here I have two ribbons in yellow and black, one of each in 10 yards each, by the way. And I know I don't need nearly this much, but I actually got these from Temu. Feel free to get yours anywhere else if you'd like, especially if you're not a Temu fan. I am broke, so I have to use Temu. I don't really have much of a choice, but in any case, so I wanted to try updating this project and I want to try this ribbon wrapping method. So I go ahead and take off a good amount off the spool from both of them. And I make sure that they're both even because I wanted to over exaggerate a little bit more than I needed, but I knew I didn't need anywhere near, not even half this amount of ribbon. So I go ahead and just eyeball it and it turned out to be more than enough. And anyways, I go ahead and hot glue the yellow ribbon over the black since the yellow ribbon is more of a linen ribbon. Any ribbon you want to use, you definitely want to use ones that have wire in it, and the less flimsy the ribbon, the better, so that it's easier to manipulate around this project. You don't want it fully stiff either. I don't know if that even makes any sense, but like that's why I really like burlap ribbon for these ribbon wrapping projects because they actually are very moldable. Even if they're slightly flimsy, that is totally okay. So at first when I tried ribbon wrapping this, I didn't think about the fact that it would slide so much, and I didn't wrap it around through the head hole, if that makes sense. And as a result, it kept sliding on me as I was trying to ribbon wrap. I kind of thought, oh, if I just start ribbon wrapping, it's just going to push itself upward and yada yada. And no, that did not work. So I ended up having to redo it anyways. So here I just go ahead and take the center of it, which is the part where I glued it together, and just start wrapping it around through the head hole first so that it has an anchor. And then I make sure that one ribbon is going over the bar on the right. The other part of the ribbon is going under the bar and over and around. And then they cross over in the middle with the right ribbon going over the left. And then rinse and repeat where the ribbon coming from the left going to the right is going over the bar on the right, under and around. And then the bar on the left, the ribbon needs to go under, around, and over. I hope that makes sense. And then just repeat the pattern until you get to the end. And what happens is as you get closer to the bottom body where it gets larger, you're going to have to start hot gluing it to the bars so that it doesn't continue to slide. So here's where I'm just going ahead and adding hot glue as I go along below the wings. And for some reason, it's only needed for the left side of this bee. And I repeat gluing each layer below the next until I get to the second round of the yellow because it doesn't need to go by the stinger. So I just go ahead and hot glue it to the back. And of course I go ahead and trim off the excess, and I definitely gathered way too much more material than I needed, which is fine. I'd rather have too much than too little. Then once I get to the stinger, I do my best to go ahead and wrap around the stinger with this ribbon and then hot glue it to the back and cut off the excess. Then I started questioning my life choices. No, just kidding, just for this project. But I did think, like, for this project, like, if this is even going to be good enough for you guys, I wasn't sure if this was the right decision to undo what I had before and redo it. Let me know in the comments below. No offense would be taken. I just really wanted to give a new updated refresh on this project, and I was worried that I made a major mistake. But after putting the sunflower head back in, I knew I was going to go ahead and repurpose the yellow deco mesh. I had to commit to this project at this point because once I removed everything and the fuzzy black yarn was falling all over the place, or shedding rather, I was like, I have to keep going because I have to see this through. And it was an experiment. I wanted to see if it would turn out well, and I want to know what you guys think of the final results. In any case, I go ahead and take the deco mesh. I look for sections that didn't have the black yarn still attached to it because it's impossible to take it off of this deco mesh because that's how that material is. But anyways, I cut off sections and then glue the edges to the back rather than doing a full wraparound, just to give it some sort of like a highlight, altered texture situation so that it looks somewhat similar to the original project. So with the bit of yellow at the bottom still peeking through, I decided to grab some scrap bit of that yellow ribbon and just go around it once and glue edges to the back just so that it has a continuing alternating pattern between the two colors. That way, when I add the deco mesh over top, it'll look clearly yellow rather than deco mesh over top black. That would kind of look strange, I think. So I go ahead and do this as a workaround. Then I take a black pipe cleaner from Dollar Tree, fold it in half. I test out the length for it as a stinger or stinger replacement and decide to go ahead and twist it upon itself while it's folded. Then I decided it was far too long as is, so I decided to fold it in half again and twist it upon itself. Then I go ahead and hot glue it into the bee wreath form under the material so that it just sticks out as an actual stinger. And here's the updated final results. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Did I mess it up or did I make it better? And third is a Dollar Tree DIY sunflower bee wreath. So I got 2 of these bike wheel wreaths from Dollar Tree. Then I got this black burlap ribbon from Temu, but feel free to get yours wherever. And I'm just going to take it off the spool and cut it in half off camera, then take one of the pieces, fold it in half both ways so that we can start ribbon wrapping this. Then I randomly select a pie shape to ribbon wrap around and place the ribbon between 2 bars of the pie shape, put the right side over, around, and under the bar on the right, then the left side under, around, and over the bar on the left, crossing over in between with the right side ribbon going over the left side, and then repeat. And here I just want enough excess ribbon to be able to wrap around to the back of it, so I just go ahead and cut off the rest of that. Then I hot glue those extra pieces to each other so I can ribbon wrap another pie shape. Then off camera, I go ahead and ribbon wrap the rest of the exposed pie shapes on this wreath form. For the second wreath form, I don't have enough of the ribbon to ribbon wrap this one, so I'm pivoting by instead using what I have on hand. And I thought these brown and black pipe cleaners I got from Goodwill some time ago could do the trick. So especially for like the center of the sunflower anyways. So by mixing the colors together, I'm hoping it gives some dimension to the piece. So I take one of each color, put the edges through the wreath's center hole, and glue the edge pieces to the back and then wrap it. So for wrapping this, I've ended up just resorting back to my original ribbon wrapping method, which is just taking the pipe cleaners for these and then going over both bars on the right or the left, going over, around, and under, crossing over in the middle, and then having the right side going over the left, and then repeating that pattern until you get as much coverage as you possibly can. I also am tight on timing for this recording of this video as it's due this Saturday. I'm further behind than usual, busy with work and a lot of overtime, so I'm sure that's TMI, but in any case, I do apologize. This is the best I can do, so I decided to take whatever I could, try to make sure it was even all across every pie shape I could. So I certainly definitely had to use just whatever I had on hand, but in any case, I made sure that the rest of the pie shapes got the same amount, and I made sure to hot glue the ends to themselves. The other option too is you could try doing, instead of pipe cleaners, you can get the fuzzy, what are those called? The fuzzy yarn, and use that instead. So totally up to you with what you have on hand. I'm trying to use what I have on hand so that I don't have to worry about spending more money. Once all the pipe cleaners were glued to themselves, I go ahead and grab excess ribbon that I had laying around, and I go ahead and ribbon wrap the gaps that you see. Once all pie shapes were completed, I grabbed the first wreath form that I completed. Once I made that decision, I layer one over top the other, and then I pull the ribbons out from the edges to try to make sure that all of it can wrap around both bars of that curved edge of the pie shapes, if that makes sense. And then I cut off the excess as I went along. And the last one. Next, I take sunflowers I have on hand, and this set is actually from Michael's. They're 99 cents for the bunch. And I also have 2 more sunflowers originally from Dollar Tree that I have on hand as well, but there's only 2 of those left, and I need a total of 12 flower petals sets. And what I mean by that is what I need to do is cut these down in half. And to make sure they don't fall apart, I also need to glue the materials together. So what I do is I go ahead and take out the plastic pieces completely. Then I glue the centers to each other. And then once dried, I go ahead and cut those in half completely. Then I glue those pieces to the circle or curved edge of the pie shapes all around the entire wreath. And since the Dollar Tree ones have that sort of orange center and are a little bit larger, I wanted to disperse them as evenly throughout it as possible. So I try to put them after every two of the cheaper Michaels versions. And I do that until all pie shapes are covered with these florals. And lastly, I decided to take one of those fuzzy center pieces that came from these sunflowers to insert that into the middle, but I also cut off the excess that look kind of wonky that just stick out and don't look round or circular. Cut them off, and then I hot glue it to the center of this wreath. This you can skip if you like it the way it is with just the pipe cleaners. Then I add this bee metal piece that I picked up from a Family Dollar, and they're actually a part of Dollar Tree, but I mean, this one was $1.25, but they were only selling it like I think the last season, last year, I think it was. I thought it was really cute, so I decided to use it here because the other bee that I have is being used on a different wreath, so I thought this would be perfect for this one. Then off camera, I added a hanger, and here's the final result. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Did you know that I am currently selling personally designed t-shirts based off of my upcoming book, The Cancer Dragon? Here I'm unboxing some orders from coworkers who I'm very grateful to for supporting my mission. If you were to ask me honestly, the idea for this logo came from my DIY Cancer Dragon wreath. My husband bought me a shirt once that said, "I kicked cancer's ass," but because of where I work, HR would have had a hissy fit over that, so I decided to design my own. To me, there's something to be proud of in becoming a Cancer Dragon Slayer, and I really hope my journey inspires you. I never planned on designing shirts for this, but as I kept creating and finding ways to express my life story, it just happened. I thought to myself, who else might love a shirt like this? On the back, the sayings are made for slayers, warriors, supporters, and even for honoring lost warriors. These shirts were created with all of you in mind, and I was so happy with the design that I wanted to make it available for anyone who feels connected to this journey. Okay, so here's the cover so far for my upcoming book. The basic gist of it is, I became diagnosed with stage 3 cancer, got pregnant during fertility treatments, refused to abort despite my doctor's warnings that I'd die at birthing my child. For book updates or to support me, scan the code or click the link below. If you enjoyed this video, please smash that like button and subscribe. And until next time, we'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching. Bye.